Hello, happy Wednesday. This is Pastor Jonathan with Robert Stell UMC, and welcome to today's Daily Devo. I am terribly tardy. I am feeling tardy today. I was supposed to be with you this morning. I had actually spent a while preparing the Daily Devo, and one of the things that I had to do this morning was I took my daughter to a horseback riding lesson, because for her birthday at the end of May, we gave her horseback riding lessons. And so it's been my custom on the days that she has horseback riding lessons to actually use that time to prepare and record Daily Devo in a location close to the stables. I wasn't able to do that today. I've worked a lot on the Daily Devo, but here I am, late. But let's dialogue, you and I. I thought, man, maybe I've just missed the opportunity completely, but that's not us. That's not how we roll. We're going to get together. We're going to connect. We're going to spend time with each other and with the Lord, even if it's a little later than usual. Sometimes during this pandemic season, the day just doesn't go as we have planned. I don't know if that's just my experience. Maybe it's your experience too. But while I was watching my daughter this morning learn to ride horses, this verse came to my mind out of the book of Jeremiah. Now, Jeremiah has always been a very special book to me. The call of Jeremiah in Jeremiah chapter 1 has really become one of my life verses ever since college. For years now, that has been part of my story. And part of the reason I gravitated to Jeremiah then was because he was young. He was very young when he was called to be a man of God and a prophet. I was young when God called me. I've been a young pastor now for 9 or 10 years. And I think I still look young. You can tell me in the comments if I still look young. I'm just kidding. Don't. This isn't about me. It's about the Lord. But Jeremiah was also a very reluctant prophet. And I think Jeremiah kind of gets a bad rap because he comes across a little bit as a whiner. And whiners are not talked about well, right? I mean, you don't admire people that you consider whiners. But when you read what Jeremiah went through, I mean, man, if I was Jeremiah, I think I'd be whining too. I mean, really, his whole ministry, he never saw any fruit. He was called to preach God's judgment and proclaim the bad things that were going to happen as a consequence of Israel's sin. He, of all the authors of the Bible, wrote the book of Lamentations, which is just not a very fun book to read, even though there's some hope and there's some promises in there too. But Jeremiah just really suffered a lot. And then at the end of his entire ministry, he was stoned to death. And so it really is not a pleasant story of a person of God living out their call, fulfilling their mission, seeing very little fruit. And so in the 12th chapter of Jeremiah, now remember, I said this had to do with my daughter having horseback riding lessons. In chapter 12, the first 5 verses, Jeremiah begins pleading to the Lord. He says in verse 1, "You are always righteous, O Lord, when I bring a case before you, yet I would speak with you about your justice." So he's calling God's justice into question. "Why does the way of the wicked prosper? Why do all the faithless live at ease? You have planted them, and they have taken root. They grow and bear fruit. You are always on their lips, but far from their hearts." Ooh, that's a challenging verse right there, isn't it? You are always on their lips, but far from their hearts. "Yet you know me, O Lord. You see me and test my thoughts about you. Drag them off like sheep to be butchered," he's saying about the wicked. "Set them apart for the day of slaughter. How long will the land lie parched and the grass in every field be withered? Because those who live in it are wicked. The animals and birds have perished. Moreover, the people are saying, 'He will not see what happens to us.'" And then in verse 5, the Lord responds. He talks back to Jeremiah. And he says this, "If you have raced with men on foot and they have worn you out, how can you race against horses? If you stumble in safe country, how will you manage in the thickets by the Jordan?" Oh, what a verse, huh? If you have run against men and they have worn you out, how will you race against horses? So the message here is pretty clear, and that is that God will call Jeremiah to even more. So Jeremiah was actually called to minister first and proclaim the truth of God first in his hometown, and he struggled there. And that reminds me so much that so many of us have ideas about out there and far off, when really God has a calling for us right where we are. The church is always missional. And for many of us, the church has become a part of the rhythm of our life. But because of that rhythm can also translate too often and too easily into stagnation. It's a rhythm, It's consistent, it's reliable, but then it morphs into something stagnant. Because it's reliable, because it's consistent, it becomes stagnant and stale. We do the same thing all the time. There's a motionless quality that begins to be adopted, and we lose sight of the fact that God's church is always, always, always on mission. God's kingdom is always advancing. God is always calling us upward and onward and further still. And that's why when we go through situations of trial, it completely rocks our world. And we say, God, what's going on? We were doing fine. We were trucking along. We were engaging in our rhythms. Now this, what are we supposed to do? And as the people of God, that actually shouldn't surprise us. Because as God has us running with men, it's to prepare us for when we will race against horses. God is always calling His people further and farther, and to do more, and to advance territory, and to encounter new things. In a sense, the spiritual life will actually get harder and not easier, but we will become more strengthened and enabled to face those hard challenges because, like every other thing in life, the more we exercise, the more we practice, the stronger and faster we get, and we're able to, in a spiritual sense, face greater and greater challenges, because it's not out of our own strength that we do that. It's out of the strength of the Lord. And so the more God possesses us, the more we see what would have been impossible become possible in our lives. The more perseverance and endurance we're able to bear, not because of our own strength, but because God's strength in us is rising more and more. There's more of us yielded to Him. He's taking more of us over. He says in the last part of verse 5, if you stumble in safe country, how will you manage in the thickets by the Jordan? The thickets of the Jordan were the part of the Jordan River that were thick reeds, and the Jordan would flood over those reeds, and then the river would recede, and then it would get high tide and low tide. And during the times that it would recede, during those seasons when it wasn't flooding, that thicket area that used to be covered in water was just really thick reeds, and it became a place where lions would crouch and wade through the grass and hunt and stalk other animals. And so it was considered a very dangerous territory. And that's what God was comparing Jeremiah's future location to. If you can't even minister where you are, if you can't even deal with the situation that you're in, how will you face the challenges that I have before you? Now, you may be hearing that as a discouraging word. Lord, you're going to give me more? Lord, I'm going to experience more trials and more suffering in this life. And what God is saying is, if you will run with me, if you will rely on my strength, if you will trust in me, just like Jesus said, right? If you're faithful with little, I will entrust you with more. So that when I do call you to run with horses, because you've been faithful in this season, I will train you to be able to face things that you never thought possible. Again, not doing it in your own strength, but learning to do it in my strength. It will blow your mind. So that's my encouragement for you today, brother and sister, that if you're starting to feel weary in this season, know that this season was a season that God knew was coming long, long ago. When you and I were just resting in the Lord, and when we were just enjoying our faith, when things weren't that hard, and we thought, man, I'm just happy in the Lord. I'm just glad to be alive, and I'm glad to have this faith. God was actually preparing us at that time, little did we know, for the time we're in right now. And guess what? God is preparing us right now for the times that lie ahead. We never know what that is. We never know what those times are. But God is faithful. He's so faithful that those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength, and we won't even run with horses. Horses are faster than humans. We will actually mount up on wings like eagles, Isaiah 41 says, right? Those who wait on the Lord will renew our strength. We will run and not grow weary. We will walk and not faint. We will soar on wings like eagles, and we will see God do the impossible. So rely on the Lord's strength today. That's my message. When things start to feel stagnant, or you feel like, man, my world's just getting shaken up, remember, God is always calling us onward and upward, further with Him, to do even greater things, and to see Him through us do what we never thought possible. With man, this is impossible. With man, enduring this COVID season might seem impossible, but with God, all things are possible. Sorry, I think I was long-winded today. I hope that encourages you. If you have any feedback, if you have any pushback, if you have any questions, if that challenges you in any way, anything to share whatsoever, we would love to hear from you in the comment section. I'll see you right back here tonight as we continue our Bible study on the book of Joshua at Bible Study Live at 6 p.m. on our Facebook page and on our website, robertstillumc.com. God bless you today. This is Pastor Jonathan wishing you grace and peace. Go run with horses.